You're texting him. You're making time for him. You're trying to show up, be supportive, and patient. But something doesn't feel right. And you can't help but ask, is he emotionally unavailable? Or is he just not that into me? It's a question so many people ask, especially when they're falling for someone who seems to be half in, out. And the truth, there's a fine line between the two, but one you need to recognize early before you waste your time on someone who won't meet you where you are. You're texting him, spending time with him, trying to understand him, and still you feel like you're the only one holding the emotional weight of the relationship. He opens up just enough to keep you curious, but never enough to give you real intimacy. You keep hoping there's something deeper, something real behind the walls he's built. You fall for his potential rather than what he's showing you in the present moment. And that's dangerous because while you're dreaming of what could be, he's showing you who he really is by staying distant and hard to read. Consistency is missing, and yet you keep giving him the benefit of the doubt. You tell yourself he's busy or scared or not used to love. But deep down, you feel that lack of effort. Conversations stay surface level, especially when it comes to feelings or the future. He might even tell you he's not ready for a relationship, but you hold on, believing you'll be the one who changes him. You wait for him to be ready while ignoring your own needs for connection and clarity. The truth is, someone who is emotionally available and genuinely interested doesn't make you guess where you stand. They show up without needing to be chased. You notice that you're the one planning, calling, apologizing, and trying to hold things together. Every time you speak up about what you want, it somehow becomes your fault, and your feelings are seen as pressure. You're careful not to come off as too much, and in doing so, you shrink yourself. You start to second guess your worth, thinking maybe if you were more patient, more understanding, more chill, he'd open up. But relationships shouldn't feel like emotional puzzles. You're not supposed to work that hard just to feel wanted. If you feel more anxious than at peace, your body is trying to tell you something. The biggest sign that something is off is when you find yourself becoming someone you're not, just to keep him interested. You hide your feelings, suppress your needs, and convince yourself this must be what modern love looks like. But real love doesn't make you feel unseen, confused, or small. If he isn't showing up fully, then whether he's emotionally unavailable or simply not interested, the outcome is the same. He's not ready to love you the way you deserve to be loved. Stop waiting for him to change. Start honoring the version of you who no longer wants to settle for half-hearted love. When someone is truly interested and emotionally available, their presence in your life is consistent. They don't pop in and out depending on their mood, nor do they make you feel like you're only important when it's convenient for them. They make plans and follow through. They respond to messages without keeping you waiting for days. Their effort is steady, not unpredictable. But when a person is emotionally unavailable, they tend to give you just enough attention to keep you hoping for more, never quite disappearing, but never fully showing up either. That inconsistency keeps you in a state of confusion, constantly wondering where you stand and what you mean to them. This kind of behavior makes it difficult to relax in the relationship. You start analyzing every message, every delay, every excuse. You question yourself. Did I say something wrong? Am I being too needy? But the problem isn't your expectations. It's their inability to meet them. Someone who truly cares about you doesn't want to leave you questioning. They make an effort to be part of your world without being asked repeatedly. Inconsistency is not a personality trait. It's a reflection of either a lack of interest or a lack of emotional readiness. And either way, it creates a shaky foundation for connection. The more inconsistent someone is, the more you may find yourself working harder to fix things that you didn't break. You start initiating every conversation, planning every meet-up, and trying to keep their attention, just so things don't fall apart. You give more than you're receiving because, deep down, you're scared they'll pull away completely. But love should not feel like a chase. It should feel like a steady walk together in the same direction. If someone isn't matching your energy consistently, that's not love. It's emotional uncertainty disguised as potential. You deserve someone who brings peace, not anxiety. Someone whose actions don't make you question their intentions every week. Consistency in effort, in communication, in emotional presence. These are not too much to ask for. In fact, they are the bare minimum in a healthy connection. If someone can't give you that, it's time to stop explaining away their absence and start recognizing your own worth. A real relationship doesn't keep you guessing. It helps you feel seen, safe, and certain. When someone is genuinely interested in building a connection with you, they don't shy away from real conversations. Talking about feelings, the future, or even past experiences may not always be easy, but emotionally available people understand that these discussions are necessary for intimacy and trust. On the other hand, if every time you try to go deeper, he changes the subject, jokes it off, or becomes uncomfortable, that's a sign he may not be emotionally ready or willing to connect on a meaningful level. Avoiding depth doesn't protect you from pain. It only delays the disappointment. Emotional unavailability often shows up in subtle ways. You may notice that your conversations stay surface, level, even after spending a lot of time together. He might be charming, funny, and physically affectionate, but when you try to understand where the relationship is heading or express your emotional needs, there's suddenly a wall. This resistance can leave you feeling confused and even rejected, wondering why someone who seems to care about you avoids anything that requires vulnerability or commitment. It feels like you're trying to connect through fog. You know he's there, but you can't reach him fully. This lack of emotional depth can be draining, especially if you're someone who values open communication. Over time, you might find yourself talking less about what truly matters, not because you don't care, but because you're tired of being dismissed or shut down. You begin to filter your feelings, avoid topics that could make him uncomfortable, and shrink your emotional expression just to keep the peace. But this doesn't build a stronger bond. It only creates emotional distance between you and leaves you feeling more alone within the relationship. A relationship should be a safe place where both people feel free to speak from the heart. If you're constantly walking on eggshells or censoring your emotions to avoid pushing him away, you're not being met with the openness you deserve. Someone who wants to grow with you will lean into the uncomfortable conversations, not run from them. Presence without emotional depth might look like a relationship from the outside, but on the inside, it feels empty. And no matter how much you care about him, you can't build something lasting with someone who won't let you in. When you care about someone, it's natural to want clarity, connection, and emotional reassurance. These aren't unreasonable demands. They're basic needs in any healthy relationship. But when you express these needs and are met with distance, coldness, or defensiveness, it creates a cycle of self-doubt. You start questioning whether you're asking for too much, whether your expectations are unrealistic, or whether you should just stay quiet to keep the peace. Over time, this teaches you to suppress your voice in order to hold on to someone who doesn't value your emotional reality. If every time you try to talk about your feelings, you're told you're being dramatic, needy, or overthinking things, it's not just invalidating, it's damaging. Emotional connection requires two people who are willing to listen, understand, and grow together. But when your needs are dismissed or turned into a problem, it makes you feel like a burden rather than a partner. You may begin to internalize that rejection, believing that maybe you too much or too emotional, when in reality, the issue is not you. It's the fact that your partner is unwilling or unable to meet you at a deeper level. Being with someone who makes your emotions feel like an inconvenience creates a silent kind of suffering. You smile, act fine, go along with things, all while holding back the very parts of you that want to connect. It's lonely to feel unheard, especially by the person you care about most. You begin to feel like you're walking through the relationship alone, catering to their comfort while ignoring your own emotional hunger. And that imbalance, though subtle at first, becomes a heavy weight to carry. You deserve someone who welcomes your feelings, not someone who shuts them down. A relationship should be a space where both people feel safe to be honest, open, and human. If someone can't handle your emotions, it doesn't mean your emotions are too big. It means they're not ready for real intimacy. Don't shrink yourself to fit inside someone else's limitations. Your needs are not a burden. They are a reflection of your desire to love deeply and be loved in return. And the right person will honor that. When you find yourself constantly being the one to initiate conversations, make plans, or smooth over tension, it can start to feel less like a relationship and more like a one-person job. You may tell yourself that you're just being the caring one, the patient one, the one holding things together, but deep down you start to notice how unbalanced everything feels. Love should never feel like a performance where only one person is doing all the work. It should feel like a mutual exchange where effort flows both ways and both people are emotionally invested. It becomes exhausting when you're the one always reaching out, checking in, or trying to fix things after conflict. You begin to wonder why he never takes the first step, never seems to notice when you're pulling away, or never brings solutions to the table. You make excuses for him. Maybe he's busy. Maybe he's not good at communication. Maybe he doesn't realize. But somewhere inside, you feel the truth creeping in. If he wanted to, he would. Consistent one-sided effort isn't a sign of strength. It's a sign that you're carrying more than your share of the emotional weight. This kind of emotional labor often goes unnoticed by the other person, especially when you're doing everything in your power to keep things from falling apart. You put your own needs aside, avoid expressing your frustration, and keep hoping that maybe next week he'll show up differently. But that hope turns into a pattern, and that pattern becomes your reality. A healthy relationship doesn't leave you feeling depleted, constantly working to hold someone's attention or to keep peace that shouldn't require so much effort in the first place. At some point, you have to stop and ask yourself if you're building something together or just trying to keep it alive on your own. Love should feel like a partnership, not a task. You deserve someone who meets you halfway, someone who makes you feel like you're not the only one trying. If you're the only one walking, the relationship will never move forward, no matter how hard you try. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for yourself is stop carrying what was never meant to be yours alone. One of the clearest signs that someone isn't ready to give you what you need is when they say it outright. When a man tells you he's not ready for a relationship, he's being honest in a way that many people aren't. The problem is that honesty often gets overlooked. You hear the words, but you hope they don't apply to you. You think if you're patient, kind, understanding, or just different from the others, maybe he'll change his mind. But by ignoring his words, you end up hurting yourself more in the long run. It's tempting to believe that your connection is strong enough to shift his mindset. You replay all the good moments, all the chemistry, all the signs that seemed to point towards something real. You convince yourself he just needs time or that he's scared because of past heartbreak. But the truth is, when someone tells you they're not ready, they're setting a boundary. And the more you try to cross it, the more you begin to lose yourself trying to win over someone who already told you they can't give you what you're looking for. Continuing to stay in that dynamic can make you feel like you're constantly auditioning for a role he never plans to cast. You become more focused on proving your worth than protecting your heart. You put your needs on hold, hoping that one day he'll finally wake up and choose you. But love isn't something that has to be earned through suffering or patience. If someone wants to be with you truly and fully, they won't need convincing. They will show up ready and willing. Respecting what someone tells you about their emotional availability is a form of self-respect. When you take their words seriously, you give yourself the freedom to move towards something healthier, something mutual. You stop investing in hope and start choosing peace. Believing someone the first time they say they're not ready isn't giving up. It's choosing not to abandon yourself for the sake of potential. It's choosing to walk away with your dignity intact and your heart still open to someone who's truly prepared to receive it. You might spend plenty of time with him, talking, laughing, even being physically close, but there's still a feeling that something's missing. On the surface, It can look like everything is going fine. He's showing up, making plans, being affectionate, and you convince yourself that this must mean he cares. But when you try to connect on a deeper, emotional level, he pulls away. The conversation suddenly gets shorter, the energy shifts, and you're left feeling like you reached for him, only to find a wall where closeness should have been. This kind of emotional distance can be confusing, especially when the physical closeness suggests intimacy. You might think, why would he spend so much time with me if he didn't feel something? But emotional presence is not the same as physical presence. Someone can lie next to you and still be a million miles away emotionally. They can kiss you, hold your hand, and still not let you into the parts of them that truly matter. The fears, the dreams, the feelings they're holding back. What makes it more complicated is that moments of closeness can sometimes feel very real. Maybe you share a deep conversation one night, or he opens up slightly about his past. That one glimpse makes you hold on tighter, hoping there's more to come. But over time, you notice that those moments are rare, and when you try to build from them, he retreats. It's like he gives you a piece of himself and then quickly hides the rest again, leaving you chasing emotional connection that never fully arrives. Real emotional connection requires vulnerability, consistency, and a willingness to be seen. It's not built in silence or in guarded moments. It's built through openness. If he can't meet you on that level, no amount of time together will fill the emotional gap you feel. Being physically present doesn't mean he's emotionally invested. You deserve someone who doesn't just show up in body, but in heart and mind too. Someone who doesn't just want your company, but wants to share something real with you. When you're involved with someone who is emotionally unavailable or not truly interested, your body often senses it before your mind fully accepts it. You may find yourself feeling anxious more often than calm, constantly trying to interpret their behavior or read between the lines of their messages. You wait for replies that come too late. You replay conversations wondering if you said something wrong. And you begin to feel like you're walking through emotional fog. That uneasiness is your intuition signaling that something about the connection isn't secure or fulfilling. Over time, that constant anxiety can wear you down. It's not just about waiting for a text or feeling unsure about plans. It's about the emotional inconsistency that leaves you questioning your worth. You start doubting yourself, wondering if you're being too sensitive or too demanding, even when all you're asking for is basic respect and emotional presence. That kind of second guessing can slowly erode your confidence, making you feel like you're the problem, when in reality, you're reacting to someone who isn't giving you the clarity and care you deserve. A healthy relationship brings a sense of stability and emotional safety. You shouldn't have to overanalyze every interaction to figure out where you stand. You shouldn't feel like you're constantly proving your value or waiting for validation. When someone is genuinely interested and emotionally available, their actions align with their words, and their presence brings peace. They don't make you guess. They show up in ways that make you feel secure, appreciated, and understood. Listening to your body is one of the most powerful tools you have. If you feel more anxious than calm around someone, if your gut is constantly unsettled, it's important to pause and reflect. Peace is a sign of alignment. Confusion is often a sign of emotional mismatch. You deserve a connection that quiets your mind and softens your heart, not one that keeps you in a loop of overthinking and self-doubt. The right relationship won't feel like a constant test. It will feel like home. When someone truly wants to build a relationship with you, they naturally start including you in their future. They make plans, both big and small, and they show a willingness to grow with you. This doesn't always mean serious commitments right away, but there's a sense of movement, like you're both building something together, even if it's slow. Whether it's talking about future trips, goals, or simply being consistent with plans, their effort shows that they see you as a meaningful part of their life and want to create shared experiences that bring you closer. On the other hand, when someone is emotionally unavailable or simply not interested, there's often a noticeable lack of forward motion. You might be spending time together regularly, but it all feels stuck in place. There's no clear direction, no talk about what comes next, and no sense of progress. It starts to feel like you're living in a loop, doing the same things, having the same conversations, with no deeper connection or commitment forming. This kind of emotional stagnation can be confusing, especially when the person seems happy in the moment, but avoids anything that requires them to think beyond it. Eventually, you begin to notice that every effort to talk about the future is met with vague responses or discomfort. Even simple conversations about next week or planning something a month ahead feel heavy or avoided. It's not always because they don't care at all. It's often because they don't want the responsibility or emotional risk that comes with real commitment. But no matter the reason, their hesitation leaves you stuck in uncertainty, wondering whether you're truly a priority or just a placeholder. Being with someone who isn't building with you can start to feel like you're trying to construct a home with someone who won't even lay the first brick. Love is not just about being present in the moment. It's also about showing the intention to grow together. You deserve someone who doesn't hesitate to take small steps toward a shared future. Someone who not only enjoys your presence, but actively chooses to build something lasting with you. If he's not building, you have to ask yourself how long you're willing to stand still, waiting for someone who isn't moving forward. One of the most painful things that can happen in a relationship is when you start to lose sight of who you really are. At first, it might be small compromises, staying quiet when something bothers you, pretending certain things don't matter, or holding back your true feelings just to avoid conflict. But slowly, those small compromises become habits. You begin to shrink parts of yourself, not because you want to, but because deep down, you're afraid that being fully yourself might drive him away. You start to believe that your needs are too heavy, your feelings are too intense, or your standards are too high. Over time, you might notice that you're no longer expressing what you truly think or feel. You carefully craft your words, hold back your truth, and suppress your instincts just to keep the peace or to avoid seeming needy. You find yourself walking on eggshells, constantly adjusting yourself to fit what you think he wants. What you don't realize is that the version of you he's getting isn't the real you. It's a filtered, edited, quieter version created out of fear. And the longer you do this, the further you drift from your own identity, values, and emotional well-being. You might tell yourself that this is just part of loving someone, that all relationships require effort and compromise. But when compromise turns into self-abandonment, it's no longer love, it's survival. You're not thriving in the relationship, you're enduring it. You're pouring energy into maintaining a connection that only exists when you hide parts of yourself. And when you have to choose between your authenticity and their approval, that's not a relationship. It's a performance. No love should ever require you to become less of who you are. At some point, you have to ask yourself a hard but necessary question. Am I being loved? Or am I just being tolerated for the version of me that feels safest to him? You deserve a relationship where your full self is welcomed, not just accepted, but celebrated. Your voice, your needs, your feelings, they matter. And the right person won't ask you to change or dim your light just to keep their attention. They'll want you to shine, to speak, to stand strong in who you are. Because real love doesn't require you to disappear. It invites you to be seen,